What if Deku had a Judgment Quirk Part 2? And if you did not watch the previous part, then go watch Part 1. But I will give you a summary. And Izuku leaves UA because he sees that UA is a failing hero school because he could read, because he read All Might's mind, and also the fact that UA is taking too much of his time from trying to help people, and so he left. And then in the following days, try to beat the shit out of a lot of criminals, and this is where the series actually starts. And Izuku beating criminals goes on until on one day Aizawa finally managed to find Izuku and told him Nayali that Izuku can't do this and that he can't do this villain and that he can be the judge, jury, and executioner. Izuku side saying Izuku side stating my court is literally a courtroom, Aizawa. I am the judge, jury, and executioner. Can't you see it? I am it all. The one who judges, the one who judges evil. So don't bullshit me. And if you want to take me to join back to UA, then you're failing as a hero too. And if you're going to do it, still get ready to fight. And after Izuku said that, he and Aizawa fought, and Aizawa was surprised at Izuku's strength, but Aizawa had more battle experience. But the fight went on until Izuku got to the back of Aizawa and accidental jolt of lightning through Aizawa's brain so precisely that where it did not damage Aizawa in any way but did knock him out. And after Izuku did that, he left the alley and continues his judgment on the world. And in the following weeks, the news call him the Emerald Judge, and the villains are afraid of Izuku, obviously. And we now get to the USJ, and in the USJ, Minato and Tsuyu had died, and now Aizawa barely survived because of a stronger Bakugo's help. And yeah, that's the only thing that happened in the USJ. And because of this, UA was shut down for a few weeks to deal with the press and many of the other things, and people being frustrated at UA's force for two students dying in the USJ about the one of the strongest students leaving UA. And then that student being Izuku, and Izuku defeated Gaijia, which had left UA and the heroes had destroyed, and the villains even more scared of Izuku. And we now time skip to the UA social, which does not happen because of the heroes, because of the press and the government fund lowering and the hazardous population control. And without that, there is no hero interaction arc because no source festival, but Todoroki would be with Endeavor and the rest are cooked. But remember, Todoroki still does not want to use his fire, so he's weaker and still hates Endeavor. And Bakugo is annoyed because he believes that Izuku leaving caused all of this to happen. And while that makes sense, it won't because there is something called free will. And this mindset is making Bakugo go deeper in the ruthlessness. And we now get back to Izuku electrocuting an entire gang and using Judgment Code on their leader. And after it is done, he is about to leave until the Hero Killer Strain appears and Izuku and Strain lock eyes. And then chill, I guess, for a bit because I ain't making that conversation. But after the conversation ends, Izuku restrains mind to see if Strain is telling the truth or not. And after Izuku does Strain and Izuku become allies and shake hands until Ida appears to avenge his brother by killing Strain. But Strain easily defeats Ida but does not kill him because of Izuku saying not to. And before Izuku and Strain could leave, the other heroes came, and there are Endeavor, Gran Torino, and a few low-tier heroes. And Todoroki, before Endeavor could attack Strain, Izuku had activated Judgment Code on Endeavor, and everyone was surprised, but Izuku explained what this is, and Endeavor tried to attack Izuku but could not move. And Izuku said, the course starts now, and the heroes were trying to defend her, but Todoroki, he was not going to let this chance slide. To put out all of Endeavor's secrets, and Izuku would start saying all of the secrets of Endeavor, and when he did, Endeavor was furious at this, but was unable to do something, and Strain would smirk. And after a bit, Izuku spoke out, saying the number 2 hero, Endeavor, is guilty with being punished with his quirk disabling for at least 6 months. And after Izuku said that the judgment court ended, then the fight started, and this was much easier, and all of the heroes were easily defeated by Izuku and Strain, and then they would leave. And we now get back to UA High being shut down because of Ida almost being killed and Endeavor becoming weaker by a long shot. And All Might and the rest of the teachers and students would be silent, but none of them would have the balls to say anything except All Might maybe. And UA High was almost shut down because of Izuku Meteor doing what he did to Endeavor and allying with Strain, and UA is the reason, and the press say that UA is the reason why Izuku is like this, and even though Izuku was the one who had left because of all of this. Bakugo had gone rogue and he had started killing villains and becoming a vigilante, not caring about civilian safety, which in turn caused some villains to die. This caused civilians to die, and he threatened anyone to find out where Izuku is. And we now time skip to a few days later, and the new arc is called, which is Emerald Judge Hunting Arc. And in this arc, Bakugo, with the help of many villains, I guess criminals, that he calls extra, tries to find Izuku and try to kill him. And they were threatening and even killing civilians to get his info. And this goes on for a few hours, which UA doesn't do anything about, all the Hero Association. And until on a city which they were attacking, Izuku came there to Bakugo, looking at him and saying, "Bakugo, you already lost." And Bakugo was scoffed, saying, "I don't. It's because of you that I could not become a hero, Deku." And after Bakugo said that, he would shoot an explosion at Izuku, and Izuku would block it with his wood. And before he could use Judgement Quirk, Bakugo said that that Judgement Quirk ability is the only reason he is alive, and without it he is nothing. And Izuku sighs, not falling for the bait, and he uses Judgement Quirk, and the civilians who were at there and the criminals were sent in the court. And after the court ended, Bakugo's sentence is that Bakugo is unable to use his quirk for 3 months. And after the court ended, Bakugo tried to use his explosion and nothing happened. So Bakugo tried to fight Izuku hand to hand, but Bakugo gets electrocuted by Izuku. And before the other criminals could escape, Izuku created wooden cages around them, which stopped them from escaping. And before Izuku could leave, the heroes came in, and then Izuku and the heroes came in, and they were trying to detain Izuku for, I guess, helping and doing a better job at them and doing a better job than them. And the heroes and Izuku are about to fight until the civilians backed up Izuku because he captured Bakugo in a day, while the heroes who have not done anything about it, and they are trying to detain Izuku from actually helping. And Izuku is about to give until All Might came and told Izuku that he has to come with them, and it would be better if they went in their way. And Izuku sighs, saying, "I'm not going to waste my time doing things your way, All Might. I have been doing things my way, my own way, and have saved thousands of people already, so don't bullshit me." And after Izuku said that, he leaves. And then this goes on the news, and All the number here confronting Emerald Judge Izuku, and Izuku would be all over the news, and the people are glazing the hell out of this man. But Izuku does not care because he has work to do, and that is defeating villains and criminals. And Izuku will be doing that, and we now transfer to the force training up, which will never happen because UA was shut down. But we now transfer to the Overhaul slash Shihazakai arc, and Izuku would actually be hunting down Overhaul because he wants to end the League of Villains and Overhaul's gang and any other evil gang that is in Japan. Izuku would be going around until someone approaches him, and it's Mirio Togata. And Mirio begs Izuku for help and that they need his help to take down the villain known as Overhaul. And Izuku would agree because he was already trying to hunt down Overhaul. And Murio and Mirio would be very thankful, and then Izuku would follow Mirio to Sir Nida's agency. And as they got there, the other heroes turned up, but Mirio told him it was fine, but they still remained on guard. I need a water break. Okay. But Mirio told him it was fine, but they still remained on guard as Mirio took Izuku to Sir Nidai. As Mirio left the room, Sir Nidai and Izuku would talk for a while, explain to each other about their plans to capture Overhaul, and after an even more time of talking later, they got a plan. And Izuku and Mirio on the next few days would start going on patrol around Hosu City because they got some info that Overhaul could have been there. And after a few more days later, on Izuku's and Mirio's posting around Hosu City, a little girl would bump in on Izuku, as this little girl was Eri, and Izuku held Eri up, seeing the bandages and being confused until Overhaul, is maybe that, came out of the alley, seeing that Izuku has Eri, and would try to act nice, but Mirio and Izuku would know him. But Mirio would tell Izuku that they can't risk Overhaul attacking surface, and Izuku would reply saying that the more people there are, who know Overhaul, then it's better. After Izuku had said that, and Izuku says that the more people there are, the better it is. And after Izuku said that, everyone in a 100-meter radius, no wait, a 10-meter or a 50-meter radius, are now in the court. And Izuku would explain the rules and who Overhaul is, and that he would say, "The court starts now." and then everyone would start giving their opinions, and that overall said that he did all of this to get rid of the courts to make equality, and one of the civilians would become saying that he sells those goods to anyone who pays him enough, and overall would get angry and would try to attack that civilian, but the attack never came, and overall would be set to electrocuted, and then after more on Judgment Court later, Izuku would say, overhaul, the villain is guilty and his punishment is Quirk erasure for all of his crimes and the people he killed. And after Izuku said that, the Judgment Quirk ended and everyone were now where they were before, and Overhaul would try to use his quirk but would be unable to, and he would be shocked, not believing that there can exist a quirk that can erase other quirks. And Overhaul would be pissed, shooting Izuku with a quirk erasing bullet, and it hits Izuku, and now Izuku's quirk is gone, but don't worry about that. And Izuku would try to use his lightning, but it not work. And before Overhaul would shoot at Eri, Mirio would push Izuku and Eri away as he gets in front of Overhaul, knocking him out. And Mirio, after knocking out Overhaul, would apologize to Deku because he was not fast enough to push Deku away. And Izuku would tell him it's no matter, and that Izuku and Mirio would return to Sonada's agency with Eri, and they captured Quirkless Overhaul. And as they got there, they explained everything to Sonada, and one of the heroes get in front of Izuku as they start bad-mouthing Izuku, even threatening him, which Mirio did not like and tried to stop, but Izuku said, Mirio, you don't have to do this. While I'm annoyed I can't use my quirk, it will be fine, so goodbye. And after Izuku said that he was about to leave until the hero stopped him, again showing that he's not a hero and still a vigilante, so he has to come with them. And Izuku will look at them coldly, saying, if you don't want me to turn into a villain as well, then move right now. And after Izuku said that, everyone would be quiet, and Miro pushing the other heroes away, telling Izuku that he is free to come here whenever he wants, and that it's all fine. Izuku would calm down and nod and leave as the heroes who did that were reprimanded a lot. And after a few days later, Izuku would still be defeating crime gangs, and in this time, Sir Naira and the other strong heroes took down all of Overhaul's bases and men. And on one day of Izuku defeating a few criminals, he would get a call from Mirio, and Mirio telling that a girl they said wants to talk to him. And yeah, I'm not explaining all of this because I hate my life. And also, let me take the time. Okay, sorry, 12 fucking minutes. I don't have time for this shit. So yeah, Izuku gets his quirk back with the help of Eri. And when All Might, Izuku, Sornaida, and Mirio were at All Might's office, they started planning on catching All for One. And I also want to mention the fact that All for One never came for Izuku, and because of the fact that All for One would have been absolutely dog walked on, because that man is dying the single time that Izuku uses that quirk. And Shigeru did not come for Izuku because of All for One's orders, and Bakugo and Todoroki are after their own circles because they have their own shit to do. And All for One did not go after Izuku because the quirk only affects the people who are evil, which is bad for All for One. And Shikari did not come to Izuku because of All for One told him not to go for Izuku. And Bakugo was sent to prison after his BS for joining criminals and threatening and killing civilians. And Todoroki had left home, never to be seen again, to God knows where, and maybe in America with a different name and identity. And that these are the only things that I need to mention, and that's all. And we start this new arc, which is called the Hunt for All for One arc. And the plan of Izuku, All Might, and Sonaida and Mirio and the other heroes would be that they first use the Quirk racing bullets as bait for Shigaraki and or All for One to come for, and once they do, Izuku use his Judgment Quirk on them. And they do the plan, and surprisingly it works, and Shigaraki and many villains and with many no moves went to get those Quirk erasing bullets, and then the heroes and Izuku started to beat all of them down, and Izuku using Judgment Quirk on Shigaraki, and once the court started, Izuku explained the truth, and after all the court deliberation later, everyone thought that Shigaraki would be unable to use his quirk just like Overhaul because of how he is. And after it fully ended, Izuku said, Tomura Shigaraki is in the middle of being innocent and guilty, innocent because of the manipulation from all for one, and guilty for all of his killing. And after Izuku said that, everyone was surprised, including Shigaraki, and the Judgment Quirk ended there. And the heroes were good, but quickly defeated the rest of them, and the no moves with one for all Mirio, who is busted, and a still strong All Might. And after that was done, Shigaraki was sent to later on Tartarus, And All for One, learning about his successor being sent to Tartarus, he was pissed, so he made a full-scale invasion on Tartarus to get back Shigaraki. There being all there are All for One, Gigantomachia, and many Nomus, high-end, and villains, but the heroes and Izuku already knew this, so they planned a plan to beat their plan. What the fuck? And once the battle started, it was all going to the villain's favor because of Gigantomachia until All Might fought him, and while Meteor fought All for One, while Izuku was being interrupted by the other villains from using his Judgment Quirk on All for One, and the villains were on the winning side until Izuku activated his mind control core and controlled as many villains he could, which had overloaded his brain with information as he ordered the villains to start attacking the villains who are not in mind control, and so they did, and which turned the tides of the battle. And after a bit, the mind controlling of Izuku ended, and the rest of the villains were being dealt with All Might, as All Might and Meteor started batting it out with All for One. And once they defeated All for One, Izuku came to them and then activated Judgment Core on All for One, and they were now sent into court. And Izuku explained the rule, and we now start this court. And after a few short time of deliberation, Izuku spoke up, saying, "All for One, or formerly known as Zen Shigaraki, is guilty for all of his crimes, and he is guilty, and his punishment is death." And after Izuku said that, everyone came back into the real world as All for One's body turned to dust. And after that, everyone celebrated, and Izuku is considered a hero, now the judge who will show the world its true colors that needs to be seen. And this is where What If Deku Had a Judgment work ends. And like and subscribe and make sure to comment, or you're gay. And after Izuku said that, everyone were back in the restaurant as the shark villain became his human form. Izuku quickly knocked him out, and then he was detained by the heroes who came in after 5 minutes later. And the people of the restaurant congratulated Izuku and praised him, and telling him that he will be a great hero. And while the heroes wanted to scold him for doing something so reckless, the restaurant owner and the civilians backed Izuku up, and the heroes gave up, knowing there is no point to argue with the civilians, and Izuku would not. And after a while later, he and his mom, Inko, would go back home, and we now time skip to Izuku going to UA High and entering Class 1A. And once he enters, he sees many different peoples until Bakugo bickering with the blue-haired student until Baku was while Baku was bigger in the blue-haired student Izuku until Bakugo saw Deku and Scar saying, "There's no way you got in here. You definitely cheated." And Izuku sighs, saying boldly, "If I did cheat, then why did they let me enter in UA High, Bakugo?" And after Izuku said that, Bakugo stopped saying nothing. And then Izuku took a seat in the front. Then finally, after a bit, Ujako arrives in class 1A, and before she could talk to Izuku, Aizawa would tell them to put these on and meet him outside because they're having a test. And Ujako would ask about orientation, and Aizawa would shut it down, and then he says to follow, and then all of them get it on and then go outside to see Aizawa waiting. Aizawa saying the number one student to come into the circle, and Izuku and Baku would come in front, and before Baku would say anything, Aizawa told Baku to move aside, and Baku was annoyed, moving aside as Aizawa gives Izuku a ball and tells him to throw it as far as he can, and Izuku puts all of his strength into it, reaching at least 900 meters, and everyone would start saying this is fun. Until Aizawa said that a student who comes in last will be expelled, and everyone would start complaining until Aizawa shut it down, and then everyone would start doing the Quirk assessment. And then after all of the tests were done, Izuku managed to get one. Izuku wants to get number one in 8 out of 10 of them, and Aizawa would say that number one student in this Quirk assessment is Izuku Midori. And Baku, after hearing this, would be pissed and would try to hit Izuku with an explosion, but Aizawa would stop and tell Bakugo that if he ever does that again, then he will be expelled. And before Bakugo would retort, Izuku would say coldly and uncaring, Bakugo, if you do that again, then I'll make sure to beat some sense into you. And after Izuku said that, Bakugo was even more pissed but was unable to do anything because of Aizawa being there. And after a while later, the class were in, and then after a while later more, Aizawa would approach as Izuku asking him about his outburst, and Izuku would tell him that he thinks about that, but he believes that Bakugo will become a villain if his mindset is still like this, and that he can't take Bakugo's bullshit, and that Yue allowing Bakugo to enter was a horrible idea because they ignored Bakugo's way of doing things and acting because Bakugo had a strong hook, and either would sigh and basically would say, "You don't have to say anything, Mr. Aizawa. I'm going back home, so goodbye." And Aizawa, after getting out, Aizawa would sigh. No, wait, Aizawa would sigh again, and also say, and would also say goodbye. And both Izuku and Aizawa would part ways as Nezu and All Might and Aizawa would start talking about the students. And Aizawa telling him now the conversation he had and All Might would compete for because of what Izuku had said. But All Might says that he believes in that Izuku is a good kid and that he will become a great hero as long as he is supported by you and Nezu and Aizawa. And then after a bit more talking later, their conversation is without not even talking about Bakugo. And we now time skip to a few days later to UA to at UA High, and then Aizawa telling them that they are gonna have another test, but this time they're gonna have a new teacher. As Aizawa finished saying this, All Might came in class saying, "I am coming to the door like a normal person," and then everyone would start blazing All Might, and they would start blazing All Might, and then All Might would start and would say that the close meetup was an Izuku would say that that is not true, and everyone would be shocked that he questioned All Might, and All Might would say that maybe, but they should get ready in the hero costume, and everyone would do so, and go to the and then trading into the hero costume. And once they all got out of the changing room, they were slightly questioning why Izuku's hero costume is just being regular clothes, and Izuku started stating that this is what he likes, and before anyone else can say anything, All Might spoke up explaining that what the heroes versus villain test is. And then in the first round, it's Katsuki Bakugo and Kirishima who are the villains versus Izuku Midori and Shuro Todoroki who are the heroes. And then after All Might said that, Izuku and the four of them would get to the designated areas, and Shoto would, would told Izuku that Izuku does not need to help him, and Izuku said, "Are you sure?" That's a Omni-Man reference. And Shoto nodded, and Izuku said, "Okay," as he waited a while until Todoroki closed the entire building when All Might said go. And after Todoroki did that, Todoroki would start walking up the stairs until he was attacked by Baku and Kirishima. And Todoroki was unable to defend himself because he had lowered his guard by a lot. And so Todoroki was defeated due to his stupidity, I guess, but he was lowering his guard too much and I'm doing this for the plot. And then Bakugo and Kirishima would quickly run to where Izuku is, and once they got there, they saw Izuku just standing until Bakugo said, "Go to hell, Izuku," as he shoots an explosion at Izuku. And Izuku would dodge it easily as he goes close to Bakugo and uses Aikido, the thing where, where they just tap the person and they just flip over, and he would do the same to Bakugo and then punching Bakugo as Kirishima says, "Wow." Izuku does the same to him. And this goes on with Kirishima and Bakugo getting dogged on by Izuku and barely landing hits on Izuku. And the audience of All Might and the teacher and the students being impressed at Izuku's abilities, but as the fight would went on, Kirishima and Bakugo managed to do some kind of planning somehow with their personalities. And when they started it, Kirishima captured Deku in a body hold, and then Bakugo came in taking off the pin of the large explosion, which was not in the idea of Hiroshima, which shocked Hiroshima and shocking All Might because that explosion is dangerous. And I also might have mentioned that Bakugo is at least a few times stronger than in the original, so there is a chance that Hiroshima might lose a limb as well. And All Might would say from the mic, "Bakugo, don't!" And Bakugo would not listen because of his hatred for Izuku, and this explosion of Bakugo would have major damage to Kirishima, or possibly blow off a few limbs and maybe even death. Before what the fuck? Before Kirishima could get hit, Izuku got uh, in front of Kirishima, taking the hit with his back, and Monta later, Izuku was seeing his back almost red from the explosion. Before All Might could come in to give Bakugo a quick beating, Izuku kicked Bakugo away with full force, breaking a few of Bakugo's ribs. And Izuku raised raised his hand, looking at Bakugo and Baku's eyes circle and his eyes circle as he's about to rain down a large thunder on Bakugo to kill him. But before he could, All Might punches Izuku away, but not at full force, and Izuku was sent a few feet flying away. But Izuku catches himself easy, and then Izuku reads All Might's mind, and Izuku gives All Might a gesture saying, I read your mind, and this is useless either way. You're going to go for his help because he has a stronger quirk, so I don't need your help right now, All Might. So don't talk to me. And after Izuku started, he started to walk away, and when All Might tried to stop him, Izuku and when All Might tried to stop him by holding Izuku's shoulder, All Might's hand was shut, and before All Might could say anything, Izuku left as Bakugo was taken to a hospital, and then everyone in class was shot because someone left UA, the best superhero high school in Japan, which no one would ever want to live in. Once Izuku got home, he got in his room and took off his hero clothes and taking a shower, and Izuku telling himself that he did the right thing, he did a hada hada hada, and then telling himself that he has to be Judgement, the one who will change the world. And as Izuku got out of the shower, he wrote a letter and then put on his hero outfit, as which is a which put which and then he put on his hero outfit, which is a black turtleneck sweater with a black trench coat with white trousers. As he goes out to the streets, he starts be defeating criminals using Judgment Quirk when he sees them, and most of them lose their quirk usage for at least a few hours, which allows Izuku to easily beat them. And this ends part one. Cause fuck me, and because the AI said that the full movie would at least be 90 minutes long. So and like and subscribe.